The day my sister asked me why I was crying. I was holding the empty watch box. Our father's watch, the one he wore every single day of his life, was gone. And the worst part? She asked that question like she had no idea why it mattered. But I already knew. Because 3 hours earlier, I had seen it on a stranger's wrist. And that's when I realized something that still makes my stomach turn. My own sister had secretly sold the last thing our father ever gave me. My name is Daniel. I'm 34 years old, and until last year, I thought my sister and I were close. Her name is Laura. She's 2 years younger than me. Growing up, it was always the three of us: Mom, Dad, Laura, and me. Dad worked as a mechanic his whole life. He wasn't rich, not even close, but he had this quiet pride about him. And every single day, without fail, he wore the same watch. It was an old stainless steel watch. Nothing fancy, but it meant everything to him. He used to tap the glass and say, "Time's the only thing you never get back, kid." When I was a teenager, I once asked him why he never replaced it. He laughed. "Because this watch reminds me who I am." That watch became part of him. When he fixed cars. When he grilled burgers in the backyard. When he walked Laura down the driveway on her first date. It was always there. So when Dad passed away last winter, that watch suddenly became the most important thing we owned. After the funeral, Laura and I had to clean out his house. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Every room felt like he had just stepped out for a moment. His jacket still hung by the door. His tools were still on the workbench. And that watch. It was sitting in a small wooden box on his dresser. I picked it up carefully. Laura walked into the room behind me. "You found it," she said. I nodded. "Dad wore this every day for 40 years. She looked at it for a second and shrugged. "It's just a watch, Dan." That sentence bothered me more than I expected. Just a watch? But I didn't argue. Instead, I said something simple. "I'd like to keep it." She hesitated. Then she said, "Fine. Whatever." So I placed it back in the box and brought it home. For the next few weeks, I couldn't bring myself to wear it. It felt too personal. Instead, I kept it on my nightstand. Sometimes I'd pick it up and just listen to it ticking. It reminded me of sitting in the garage while Dad worked on engines. The quiet rhythm of time passing. But about a month later, Laura called me. "Hey, can I come by?" she asked. "Sure." She sounded nervous. When she arrived, she paced around my living room like she had something on her mind. Finally she said, "Dan, money's been tight." I frowned. "What's going on?" "My rent went up, and my car needs repairs." I tried to help where I could. I offered to loan her some money, but she shook her head. "I'll figure it out." Before leaving, she asked something strange. "Do you still have Dad's watch?" "Yeah," I said. "Why?" She forced a smile. "Just wondering." At the time, I didn't think much about it. I wish I had. 2 days later, I went to grab the watch. The box was still there. But when I opened it, it was empty. At first, I thought I had moved it somewhere. I searched my bedroom, then the bathroom, then the whole apartment. Nothing. My stomach dropped. Only one person had been there. Laura. But I told myself I must be mistaken. My sister wouldn't steal from me. Right. That same afternoon, I went downtown to grab coffee. I was standing in line when something caught my eye. The man in front of me lifted his arm to check the time. And there it was. The exact same watch. Same worn leather strap. Same tiny scratch near the crown. My heart started racing. There was no way that was a coincidence. I stepped closer. "Hey," I said carefully. "Sorry to bother you, but where did you get that watch?" He looked confused. "Oh, this." "Yeah. I bought it this morning at a pawn shop." My chest tightened. "Which one?" He told me the address. And suddenly everything made sense. I drove straight to the pawn shop. The owner pulled out the sales log. "Yeah," he said, flipping through pages. "Lady sold that watch this morning." "Do you remember her?" He shrugged. "Blonde. Late 20s. That was Laura. Without a doubt. But the thing that hurt most wasn't the money. It was the fact she didn't even ask. 3 hours later, Laura came over again. She walked into my apartment like nothing had happened. And then she saw my face. "What's wrong?" she asked. I was sitting at the kitchen table, the empty watch box in front of me. My voice shook. "Where's Dad's watch?" She froze. For a split second, her mask slipped. Then she shrugged. "What are you talking about?" I stared at her. "You took it." Her tone hardened. "It was Dad's. That means it belonged to both of us. You sold it." Her arms crossed. "So what? It's not like it was worth much." That sentence hit like a punch. "Worth much," I said quietly. "It was Dad's." She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, Dan, you're crying over a watch?" And that's when something inside me snapped. I stood up slowly. "You want to know why I'm crying?" She didn't answer. So I walked to my desk and pulled out an envelope. I placed it on the table. "What's that?" she asked. "Dad's will." Her face changed. "You already saw it." "Not the second page." I slid the paper toward her. Her eyes scanned the document. And suddenly the color drained from her face. Because there was one line she never knew about. Dad had left the watch to me. Specifically. But there was another sentence below it. "The watch contains the key to Daniel's inheritance." Laura looked up, confused. "What does that mean?" I opened a small drawer and pulled out a photograph. It showed the inside of the watch. Behind the battery compartment was a tiny engraved code. "A safe deposit box," I said. "Dad told me about it years ago." Her mouth opened. "But the watch is now sitting on some stranger's wrist." The silence in that room was suffocating. Then she whispered the words I'll never forget. "How much was in the box?" I looked her straight in the eyes. $200,000. Laura started shaking. "We have to get it back," she said quickly. "We?" I laughed bitterly. "You sold it. But it was an accident." "No," I said. "It was a choice." It took me weeks to track down the buyer again. Luckily, he was kind enough to return the watch after I explained everything, and paid him double what he spent. When I finally opened the safe deposit box, I felt like Dad was standing beside me. Inside were savings bonds and letters he'd written over the years. But the most valuable thing wasn't the money. It was the message in the final letter. "Daniel, if you're reading this, it means the watch did its job. Time reveals who people really are." He was right. Because that moment revealed my sister's true character. I haven't spoken to Laura in 8 months. Not because of the money, but because of what she said. "It's just a watch." For her, maybe it was. For me, it was my father's last lesson. Sometimes the things people call just objects carry the deepest memories. And sometimes betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people you trust the most. But time always reveals the truth. Just like my dad said. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more unbelievable stories.